All right, we are rolling. Welcome to the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Matt Banwart. I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California, and I've been coaching for 16 years. I created this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. Today, you have the opportunity to see what kind of goes on behind the scenes of owning and operating a gym. And today we have Dan Uyemura on as a guest today. And Dan graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in Business and Economics from UCLA. And while he was there, he specialized in computer programming and started his first business, a web application development and consulting firm. Very impressive. And fast forward to today, he is the CEO of PushPress, which is a complete gym management platform, which allows people like me to automate, streamline, and grow my fitness business with a hassle-free software that was built by gym owners for gym owners. So let's dig right in. So Dan, you obviously have an in-depth knowledge of both the tech and fitness industry. How do you see technology influencing the future of not just CrossFit training, but the fitness and coaching space in general?
Yeah, I mean, technology in general, the job of technology is to make people more efficient, connect people with data, let them understand what's happening, and automate and or systemize processes that create efficiencies. Before big tech, like a lot of businesses, the technology was business process, but now software is actually turning processes into workflows and allowing people to become more efficient running their businesses, or at least even scaling, like getting coaches to do the work too.
Right.
Question was, where's this going?
What do you see like the future of technology? How is that going to influence like the boutique fitness industry?
Right. I think so if you look across the landscape of business in general, I think technology has impacted business from the top down, meaning the biggest businesses with the most revenues and money and market capitalization got access to tech early. I think fitness is on the cusp of it, specifically like boutique fitness or fitness studios. It filtered down from probably like government had tech first, and then imagine like auto manufacturers and airlines and stuff, they got access to pretty cool tech second. And then like recently, like restaurants got some really good tech that the operators were able to understand how to use. I think to date, tech has failed fitness mostly.
Really?
Like we've all built stuff that lets you kind of operate better, build process. Like we've done the table stakes stuff, but the change is coming, like the big stuff's coming. That I think, and honestly, with AI coming and all this, there's a whole nother revolution wave that's coming right now. But I actually think like businesses like mine are now, we have enough funding and capital. We have enough really, really smart people working for us with big visions and understanding of how to deploy this, that I think there's going to be a huge wave coming for fitness really soon.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you say wave, like what does that mean?
So think of it this way, like before the iPhone, the world was different.
Right.
For everybody. Before this tech shift comes, like the way we know operating a gym right now is very linear in terms of operations. And you're probably aware of this. It's like person comes in, wants to join the gym, you go to the website or you go to your, the app control panel and you give me your name, give me your email, blah, blah, blah. And there's a form you fill out and you push the button and it submits. The paradigm of operations, I think, is going to change some in the near future. And by near future, I mean like maybe 2 to 3 years, not like next month. But AI is making a lot of things. It's going to change the interface of tech, let's say. Okay. So instead of it being, think of tech right now as push. You log into the website, you go to a form, you fill it out. It could be way smarter, right? And I'm just imagining off the top of my head. This is completely off the top of my head. I haven't thought this through yet. So there might be holes in this. If you're in the audience, like you might be able to easily poke holes in this. But let's pretend I'm on your website. I indicate I want to be a member. There could be a system that intercepts that, knows my email, phone number, like kicks off automated communication to you, to your staff, does some background research on me, figures out key pieces of information that are out there on the web, compiles a dossier for you, books the appointment, gets them into the gym, they show up, and instead of like you having to worry about any data entry or any management of any of this stuff, it's like you're working with them, like coaching, doing what you do best, explain the value props, you're coaching them, you're putting them through a class, you're doing whatever you're doing. Then it's like they might get a text at the end from the system, like, hey, we just noticed you finished your class, like you want to, like the whole process can be a pull process or a blended process pretty soon, right? Data input can be in chat format now. Like imagine this is all imaginary stuff, but not that far away. Like you open up your control panel and you're like, oh, hey, PushPress, I need to add Dan as a new member. Okay, what's his email? Oh, his email's this. Okay, cool. Do you want to put him on a membership plan? Yeah, put him on a membership plan. Put him on the unlimited plan. Okay, done. Right? Like instead of like clicking a navigation, clicking a button, going to a menu, going to a form, all that is flip phone. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we're moving into smartphone.
Interesting.
Era. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The world will change. Data. So the other big thing is data. Like we are now getting to the point where the data is going to start coming. Like we are investing heavily in the data stuff. And not only on the simplest level, the data unlocks understanding. And the hardest part, like if I just gave you a whole bunch of data, you'd be like, what do I do with this? Right. But we are going to get to a point where like the data can start to inform, and layered on top of the AI, it can be like, hey, Matt, did you know like 43% of your members go through this flow, but we've identified this flow is suboptimal for your gym. You should probably put them through that flow.
Wow.
Right. Like the data can start to tell you the story as opposed to you getting a report and you're like, what the hell does this graph even mean?
Exactly.
Right? Do you play NFL, what do you call it, fantasy football?
No, I don't.
I played one season in the last decade because I didn't have time for sports, but I played one season because the PushPress team did. And I was like, I'll bet, this is a side note, I was like, I'll bet you all win. My team name was Dartboard because I just like, in fact, I just let it auto draft. I didn't even draft. I didn't know any players, and I won. I actually won. So I was like, see, this whole thing is stupid. Like if I can win, this is stupid. But anyway, what was cool is every week, like this tech's already here. And that's what I'm saying. The NFL has mega money. And they're doing this, right? Like every week I got an email and it was like, oh, this running back outperformed his normal performance by 23% because the run defense of the Vikings was, banged up. And it gave me this really easy to understand English summary of what happened. Right. And I'm a tech product guy and I'm like, this is machine shit right here. Like, there's some machine crunching all this stuff. And it just told me in plain English in a way that when I look at the NFL stuff, it's probably similar to like when a person who doesn't know data analytics looks at a report. Like, I'm like, I don't know if this is good or bad or whatever, but it just told me such plain English. So I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to start that guy again next week because that sounds pretty good. You know what I mean? Like it allowed me to make decisions.
That's awesome.
That's where data is going to get.
Interesting.
And when I say top down, big industries have had this, right? Airlines, like all that pricing shit that they do, where it's just like the seats change and all this stuff. Like that's all data driven, human, like heuristics and human behavior, psychology driven. They crunching all the numbers and doing stuff. Like that's becoming accessible to the point where like it's affordable for us to build. We're able to get engineers. We have the money to get the engineers that are good enough to build it, right? So all this stuff is now going to be unlocked in the fitness world soon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang. So what kind of a timeline, if you could attach to that, how long do you think that would take before that's like actually like operational?
It's going to take time. I mean, to be honest, like building software is super hard. And like, we're still working on stuff that I consider to be table stakes, like making the calendar nice, like that. There's nothing fancy about that. No data. It's just like, make it so someone can enter a calendar or get appointments or whatever. Like we're still working on step 0 stuff. But like I literally have a 20-year roadmap that I've been working on, which is like where this all can go over the next 20 years. Cause it's going to take time.
Right.
But the beauty of it is I'm committed. This is the only business I'm ever going to run. And I've got investors behind me who want to see it go all the way. So
that's awesome.
We're going to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say that the biggest constraint from the top down was it just funding then, or was there a tech constraint as well?
There was so when we started working on PushPress, think of it this way: there's AI and ML have been around for a decade. Nobody could afford it except the government and very few people.
Right.
OpenAI came around, figured out how to create the business model, built some tech, built a platform that now is super affordable. and getting cheaper, right? So before, when we started PushPress, like Stripe had just started. Before, the cost of doing payments processing was like you'd have to find a merchant. Like they didn't have APIs. Like it was just crazy hard.
Yeah.
Stripe pops up. It's like, boom, now you can do payments in like a day, right?
That's true.
OpenAI is like unlocked AI in a day. So a lot of this stuff is going to come faster and faster, and it's going to be cheaper and cheaper. So to your question, when we started the company, things were prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't run ML models or do the data stuff cheap. And the unique problem in our space is we support very small businesses. You guys can't spend $1,000 a month for the software. Therefore, we can't have the type of revenue that supports hiring a whole big team of really smart people without getting funding from an investor. But an investor won't invest in a company where there's a bunch of small businesses that don't want to spend a lot of money on the software. You know, it's like a chicken and egg problem.
Totally.
So it's really hard to actually build an effective business in this space, right? It's very, very difficult to get past that hump where like you can actually get capital. And until you get the capital, you're always like, you've got 100 things to build and you've got no one to do it. And you've got customers who want you to do it, who believe that you can do it, but it's just too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
And the analogy I give people is like we have a lot of features in PushPress that people have built $1 billion business doing. Like Calendly built scheduling, DocuSign has waivers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like there are things that we have to build for PushPress that we basically give to you for free that somebody has built $1 billion business around.
Oh, yeah.
Just doing that one thing. But we have to do like 50 of them.
Yeah.
So it's a tough business.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, that's a great point because I remember before PushPress when DocuSign, that's all they had. And it was like, I remember getting digital documents for like CrossFit affiliation and I'd do DocuSign. And then when PushPress, I remember when I subscribed to PushPress back in January 2019. I was like, oh my gosh, like I have all this stuff that I have access to. How convenient. Like this is really cool that I can handle so much stuff on one platform.
Yeah.
Let's kind of dig into more like specifically PushPress. So how does PushPress handle the unique challenges of running like a boutique gym or a CrossFit gym?
Ooh, let's unpack that a little bit. So it's tough because we are not CrossFit specific, even though like I owned a gym. It's actually funny. I didn't know you worked out at Code 3. You're probably there when I was like hanging out with them.
I probably was. Yeah.
At the Behind the Seas Candy.
Yeah. I remember that way back in the days.
Anyway, it's tough because every fitness vertical requires something different, right? But like I alluded to before, no fitness vertical is so big that you can get an investor to say like, yeah, go break off the MMA, world and own all of the MMA gyms and do the software.
Yeah.
Because for the investors, it's just ultimately not that interesting.
Yeah.
In our world, it's like, that's huge. Like if you got all the CrossFits on you, that's big, right? Like Wodify's done great. They've crushed in CrossFit. But in the investor world, they're like, that's kind of small.
Yeah.
Like that's cute. We want Ubers. We want Airbnbs.
Yeah.
Right? We want stuff like that. So what's tough about building the software is you have to build functionality that serves multiple targeted niches without making it confusing because small business owners don't have teams of people to train them how to use software.
Yeah.
And they don't have time. Like you're busy doing everything else, right? So there's this fine line walk that you have to walk between simple software that can service all fitness types, all different like educational levels of owner, everything from we have gyms that are like 2 members in a garage. And then we have a gym that's doing $220,000 a month, right? And it's like the software has to support all of that.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine. What do you have like an idea of what kind of percentage like spread there is between like CrossFit gyms, other boutique gyms, MMA gyms, or are there any other kind of niches that you're kind of going after as well?
So, I mean, to be blunt and speak, we're only focused on CrossFit right now.
Okay.
We do service like everything. Pretty sure we're the worldwide leader in historical fencing club software. I think we have all of them, pretty sure. But we only focus on CrossFit right now because you just can't focus on more than one thing and do it great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But we have to have the foresight of knowing that we've got to build the software to be flexible enough so that as we break off new verticals will do them great too.
Yeah.
We can't like paint ourselves in the CrossFit corner.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But in terms of, the spread, you mean on PushPress or just in general in the world?
PushPress specifically.
I would say CrossFit's probably 60%.
60%? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then if you put strength and conditioning on top of it, it's probably like 70 something percent.
77%. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dang. And what would backfill the other 40 to 30%?
Everything. Like we do have a decent amount of martial arts flavored gyms. Then there's just like, you wouldn't believe like all the different things. There's like basketball training facilities, sports specific training facilities. We have gun shooting ranges that do guns and fitness.
It's crazy.
We have mermaid swim schools on us. We have the fencing clubs. We just signed up a Hawaii automobile club today. I think, again, going back to that other big problem I was talking about, like all these niches, there's no investor who can invest into any of them. And building that software is very hard. So it's just like people are looking for software solutions that can kind of service whatever club or organization that they're running or gym or facility. Because no one's going to build a gun range software very deep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that's like too narrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And what would you say is the number one problem that PushPress is trying to solve today?
The number one problem we're trying to solve is, so the walking it back, we believe what you are doing is everything. And I believe that because I owned a gym and I connect with it. The entire world, every single person in the world over 12, maybe even, let's just say over 12, I think needs to be in a gym. 100%, full stop, period, right? But it's tough because you're operating blind. Like, even at the best intentions we have, like we're not giving you the data you need to operate efficiently yet. And a lot of gym owners are operating without education. I know you invest a ton of time in your education, so that's different, but like you have to go out of your way to be educated. And most people open the gyms because they want to express fitness to their community. They're not opening a gym because they thought of all of the stuff they're going to have to learn to be a good operator, right? And they're doing good in their communities. Like the community needs them. But the problem is like all those inefficiencies add up to gym owners are struggling, right? And only a very few small percentage of them are excelling. Right, who have gotten past this hump of being in like, hey, this is actually a viable business that's doing great, and my members are getting a ton of value, and like this is good. The world needs to be in a place where gym owners can focus on their customers, because that's all. Like, I don't think you wake up in the morning and go like, dude, I can't wait to do accounting. Or like,
definitely not.
Yeah. So it's like all of the stuff that gets in your way of serving your customers, we need to handle for you. We need to help you with, or find a vendor to do it for you, right? Like. Even finding a vendor, like if I'm like, hey, go find a accountant today, and if you didn't have one, it's like, okay, now I got to look up a bunch of accounts, call them, read reviews, do all this stuff. It's like, if I can take that off your plate and say like, here are 18 accountants that I've pre-vetted that have reviews and ratings, that have like track record and history and data attached to them, and we build the trust and take away the risk, and it's just like, here you go.
Yeah.
That greases the tracks for you just to spend less time doing the stuff that doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I see our responsibility in this equation is like, I need you to spend as close to 100% of your time making sure Mary and John are getting 100% of the value you can give them, And even with your best intentions, you're probably giving them, something less than 100, because it's like, you've also got you're worried about this other thing you got to do to operationally.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's our big goal.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically, I responded to one of your posts about, you posted, I think on Instagram, it was about that some gym owners are still using like Gmail? Whatever gym at Gmail. And I asked you, I'm like, how many gym owners still do this? And then you responded back, it was like 50%. And I was like blown away by 50% that 50%
minimum. That's minimum.
Minimum, like, really?
I bet you if I actually open up my database and look, it'd be more than 50%.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
And some of them are great gyms. Like, here, I'll shout out another one. So Babylon CrossFit New York, in Babylon, New York. Trish, great owner. She just hit me up 3 days ago and she's like, I'm finally off my Gmail account. And I'm like, dude, you are a big, legit gym. Like, you're good, And she's like, yeah, I just never thought about it that way, Like, it's just, you don't, I think one of the bigger things, like, okay, if you're a gym owner listening to this, it's like, this is a really good mindset shift that you can do. This is how I operate, is like, you just work backwards. What does your customer think when he sees or she sees X? Anything, like your front door, your email address, your trash cans, your bathroom, your coach, whatever it is, right?
First impressions are everything.
It's not even, it's like just in general. Like, what do they think, see, feel, experience in general about first impression for sure, right? But it's just in general, like, what is their experience? Like, if they go into the gym and it's like 3 minutes late one day, 3 minutes early one day, what is that experience like? Does it feel reliable? Does it feel premium? You know, and like, and when you really start to think about everything from the customer's perspective, your mindset will shift on everything. And the Gmail thing's easy. It's like, hey, if you really wanted to go pay a professional to help you do something, and it was like plumber Dan 2342 at gmail.com, like, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
You're like, I feel like I'm hiring a handyman.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, does this person have a business, or is it
just a hobby?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's so cheap. It's like $7 a month for email.
Exactly.
You know,
that's why I was blown away with that. Cause I'm like, it doesn't cost me that much money to have at Red Wolf CrossFit. So I was really blown away when you messaged back and it was 50%. Now I'm even more blown away now that you're saying it's even higher. That's very interesting. So kind of going off that, kind of off that same thing, now that you have some perspective, you've owned gyms, you have perspective because you have all this data and from the gym management software. So what would you say is the deadliest mistake that gym owners are making today?
Deadliest mistake gym owners are making today. There's a lot of them. I would, I can flip that and turn it into more of a positive. I think the number one thing every gym owner should do to immediately increase their business is learn how to sell.
That's a good one.
I think a lot of people, myself included, before I learned to sell, you're afraid of being a salesperson.
100%.
Have you taken a sales course?
I have not, but I've been required to learn to sell for the past 2 years or so, 2-3 years.
For the gym?
For the gym, yeah.
Okay. Learning to sell from a sales professional who, more than likely you're I'm going to speak for you. Are you afraid of like being a sales guy?
Not anymore, but I was when I first started.
Right. But I think there's some legitimacy to it, because if I walk into your gym and you're like, sales guy, I'm immediately going to raise a defense, right? Like, I don't want to be in a sales transaction. Nobody does. Everyone immediately, when you feel the sales coming on, you're like, like, gotta go. I don't want to deal with this, right? So, and that's why everyone avoids sales. And in fact, at my first gym, LAX CrossFit, we literally had the most kick-ass onboarding. Like, we had a foundations class, and we did this, like, I'm still proud of it this day, but like the first day was like a baseline. So it was like 4 rounds of 10 push-ups and 20 air squats and a 400-meter run. Everyone can do it. Some people took 23 minutes. Some people took, 8. But it was like super easy. And then we put them through all, like, every day they learned, you're going to learn deadlift, and then you're going to learn clean, and then you're going to snatch. Like, you learn all the myriad of stuff in a progressing manner. And then the last day, they come in and we're like, and it became a thing. So it was like all the members knew it was coming, so they did it too. But it would be like, on the board, it'd be like Hell Night, right? and then it was like, we put them through this thing like, okay, if you finish, like, hopefully you don't have anything to do, because this normally takes about an hour and a half. And, they've gone through this week of experience of CrossFit at this point. So they know, like, oh my God, like, it's really hard. I get, I get really tired, whatever. So it's like, it's probably gonna take the best person did it in about 40 minutes, but it takes the average person about an hour and a half. So just cancel any plans if you have them right now. And like, you just hype it up so they get all super scared, because they're like brand new people. And then at the very end, we're like, we're just kidding. We're just doing the baseline again. Like, and you just retest the baseline. And every single person like beat their time by at least like 30%. Most people were like 40, 50, 60%. And it's had nothing to do with the ability, had everything to do with their belief. You know what I mean? Like, I've gone through 5 days of CrossFit now. I know I can push myself a little harder. Like, it's not like they got stronger in a week. It's just they believed in themselves. Right. But they weren't even in the position to understand that yet. They're like, oh shit, CrossFit works. Yeah. Like, I see the math is on the board. It makes sense, right? Yeah. And then we did this, tying this back to the sales thing. And then what we called the no sell, which were like, cool, congratulations everyone, see you later. And like, looking back on it, everyone was like, huh? Like, what the fuck? I want to join. Should I talk to somebody? Like, because we didn't want to be salespeople, right? And so we probably honestly lost like 50% of our sales, because people were like, I guess that's it. I'll just go home. I'll go then,
Yeah, that's so funny.
So it's like, you're actually doing someone a disservice if you don't sell. Yeah. Right. If you look at it from how stupid that was, a person's there to buy, and they need information to buy, and then there needs to be a transactional flow to buy.
Right.
But you don't have to be a salesperson in the lens of like what you see on TV.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think the most impactful thing a gym owner can do is learn how to sell ethically, right? In a way that like is congruent with how humans want to transact and feel good about transacting. And it will probably immediately increase your close rate like 50% and be impactful to your bottom line day one.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I remember one of my first times I had to sell in like a consultative process when I changed my intake system. And I remember being so nervous that I totally bombed the sale and thinking like, this is crap. It's not going to work. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. And then over time, after I got more reps in, I realized that, hey, well, first off, I realized I did get some coaching on sales, and my coach was like, you don't, your goal isn't to sign up everyone. He's like, remember who your avatar is. And then, and then try and get them not to buy, but try and get them to decide.
Yep.
And so he's like, just have a conversation with them as if you are having a conversation about CrossFit with a close family member or a friend of a friend, and just let them know what you offer, and, they can take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be their call anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you said is like business 101. You got to get the reps in.
Yeah.
And everyone's just afraid of like, oh, I'm 0 for 1, I'm 0 for 2. It's like, dude, you got to do this like 100 times before it's even going to make sense.
Oh yeah.
So it's okay, like, and then you're going to stumble and close one, and and you're going to learn every single time. You're going to learn, but you got to do. Probably after your 20th sales consult, you're probably starting to figure out your groove and what you're comfortable with and what works. But the first 20 are gonna be rough, man.
Oh yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah, it was really rough. One thing I learned also when I was kind of going through those sales was I learned that, I don't want everyone. So if I got kind of like a vibe that they wouldn't be a good fit, if I already got pushback from them, or they didn't want to go through like an on-ramp if they had no CrossFit, they're like, oh, I can just go right in. Believe me, I'm good at this stuff. I'm like, have you done CrossFit before? No, I haven't worked out ever. I'm like, okay, you might not be a good fit. You might have a bad experience. And I don't want them to have a bad experience. So it ended up working out better that they, and like when I kind of just passed them on, I'm like, hey, why don't you try this first? And then if you feel ready, or if this is something that you want to do, come back to us. Yeah. And then they also found that helpful as well, that I wasn't trying to be like a hard sales kind of a guy either. So
what, if you can remember back to those moments, what happened when you told somebody you might not be a good fit here? This is like sales hack. Yeah. Big sales hack right here. I'm hoping you walk down the road. Yeah. What happens when?
So they actually tried to sell me on joining the gym.
Exactly.
And I was like, sometimes I even tell people, I'm like, I don't think you really need our help. It seems like you're doing really well on your own, like doing X, Y, and Z. Yep. And then it's funny, then they'll try and convince me. They're like, no, I really need to be here.
Yeah. So this is why I say like learning from a sales professional, human psychology, because when we're told no, we want to be told yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you shouldn't be disqualifying people to get them to say yes. Like we're not trying to play psychology tricks, but it'll always be the case. Like, so for instance, I don't have a problem firing clients. I fire PushPress clients enough. Like the ones who are disrespectful to my team, don't know how to communicate well, and without fail. And these are people I literally want gone. Once I start going down the road of like, I'll help you migrate. We're not a good fit for you. I think you'd be happier somewhere else. Here's some good systems. Oh no, like, what am I doing? What happened? Like, I'll fix this. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want you to fix. Like, I don't think you have it in you, but because it's really like mean-spirited, bad-natured people. I don't want around.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, anyways, like, gym owner listening to this right now, sales hack number 1, I call it staying on the no, which is like, I'm not trying to sell you. In fact, I'm trying to find reasons why maybe this isn't a good fit for you, and I think that's still ethical. It's still above board, but like, instead of you coming in and be like, let me show you why Red Wolf CrossFit is the perfect gym for you, and be like, I'm not really sure if it is. Let's ask some questions and figure it out.
Yeah.
I might not be the best gym for you.
Exactly.
And that's okay, right? The minute you do that, then they're going to be a little bit inclined to be like, no, I actually want this. Like, oh, he's not selling me. There's some standards here. Like, I'm intrigued. I want to be part of this, right? Yeah. So like I think this is to me the easiest sales hack you can do that probably will feel natural is just don't sell. Like, I'm not here to sell you. I'm just here to help you make a decision.
Exactly.
You're like, let's figure. I don't even know if this is good for you or good for me. Like, let's figure this out.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. And what I also found out by doing that consultative process first is that it helps manage expectations.
Yep.
Because if someone comes in with an expectation like, Matt, I want to lose 50 pounds in 2 days. I'm like, okay, well, let's actually map this out. Like, let's be realistic about this.
There's a surgeon
exactly
across the way. So
exactly.
You can do it.
So it helps me manage expectations, and then allows me to be like, okay, now I can walk them through everything, the whole process, and be like, okay, based on what I told you, and based on your commitment level, can you commit to doing this 3 to 5 times a week? Because it's not going to work if you're not a 7 or higher out of 10.
And the beauty to that is like you're pre-onboarding. So onboarding is like the next step of like business success, right? You've got to get somebody like in and into the system well. You're pre-onboarding with expectation, and then you have a check-in ability. Like, yo, dude, I told you, like, I need you here 4 times a week.
Exactly.
I'm looking through your history. You've been here 2 times a week. Like, can we reset you? And then, kind of staying on the know, like, we reset you? Are you going to be in on this? Or should you like save your money and just go to Anytime Fitness?
Exactly.
Then I guarantee you again, when you do that, they're like, nope, I'm in. I'm not going to Anytime Fitness. I want to stay here, right? Like, just by doing that, they're gonna recommit.
Yeah, I always ask them too. I'm like, hey, like, how many times do you plan on coming in per week? And if they say once or twice, I'm just honest with them. I'm like, you're probably not going to see that much progress, and I don't want to waste your time or your money. If you're not kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
So yeah, very interesting. Like any other final thoughts you want to wrap up on sales, or any other advice you could give?
The other big one I talk about is identify top-down shoppers.
Okay.
So it's basically, there's 2 types of shoppers in the world. There's top-down and bottom-up shoppers. Do you identify as either one? By hearing that?
I definitely identify as a top-down.
Okay, good. Because I don't want to say I don't like bottom-up shoppers. I just don't identify as one either. I'm top-down. So top-down is basically like, hey, I'm gonna go on vacation. Like, can I get a first class ticket? No. Okay, I'll get premium economy. Can I get the corner suite with the jacuzzi? No. Okay, I'll get the 1-bedroom suite. Like, you're looking for the best you can get, and then you're pricing yourself down to what you feel you can afford. Bottom up shoppers are like, oh, I found some coupons. Like, where can I spend this money on some Groupon? Like, you're looking for the cheapest thing. You don't care what it is. It's like, that's the person who goes on Google Flights and is like, I'll fly anywhere as long as it's under $49.
Yeah.
And I'll build everything around that. Those types of shoppers in general tend to be the most complacent, because they're not shopping on value, they're shopping on price.
Exactly.
Right. So you want to try to, like, in your sales consultation, and this is why I think high ticket works, because high ticket attracts top down. Like, I believe in myself, I believe in my time, I want to get great results. I'm okay spending $1,000 a month because that's what I want, So yeah, like, you want to try and identify during the sales consult or your set price structuring or something to optimize for top-down shoppers coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I've learned this lesson many times, is that it's always better to buy nice, because otherwise I'll end up buying twice.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, because so many times I've learned throughout the years of, like, I've either bought cheap equipment, or I've bought like cheap software, or bad microphones, and then
do you have a collection of microphones? So I'm always like, so I bottom up shop microphones. I don't know why. That's a good example, right? And at home I have like 4 or 5 microphones where I'm like, oh, this one's like 79, can it do it? Oh, this one's 89, this one's 100, and now I have one of these. Like, I've just finally gotten the Shure, because it's the one, what I mean?
I know.
Like,
that's so funny you mentioned that, because I started this podcast with like 2 cheap lapel mics on Amazon for like $25. And then one day I was like, this sounds like shit. Like, I need to get some real mics.
You know what's actually funny is one of the best mics, this is one of the topic, is like, there's a $29, it's like the industry standard wired. It looks like a karaoke mic.
Oh, one of the mini ones?
No, it's a big one.
Oh, it's a big one?
It's like a big one, but it's just like that old school with that big like shiny dome, that little disco ball on the end of it type thing.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as these, and it's like $29, but it was like
crazy.
Yeah. They just look like you're from the 70s. These look cool.
Yeah, these look so professional. All right. Kind of piggybacking off of what we're talking about sales, is that kind of more of a general business question for you is, what part of business ownership do you think people underestimate the most?
Humans.
Human beings?
Yeah. Like, if you, and so, okay. in gym ownerships, I mean, I guess in the gym ownership world, you've probably heard this question a bunch. It's like, oh, should I take a partner? And this like half the people are like, yeah, I'll take a partner. Half the people are like, absolutely not. Right. Human beings are like literally the messiest thing, like the messiest organism in the world to have to work with is a human being.
Right.
And the more people you end up getting, and you know, you can see this even in the membership base. It's like people don't like each other. Oh, so-and-so doesn't wear deodorant. Oh, like so-and-so is flirting with me. Like all this messy stuff 100%. Happens once you get humans together. So it's like when you build a business, the one thing you don't think about, okay, so I guess I can piggyback on that. Humans are messy. Typically when you hire and when you're new to hiring, you hire with personal bias, which is like, I'm a nice guy. I like to work out. Like, however I see myself, I'm gonna start hiring people that look like me. Because otherwise, I don't. That person like is abrasive. I don't want to work with them. Like, I like things like this way, and they do it that way, right? The problem with that is you end up hiring a whole bunch of people who are just like you, and they also have all the same flaws you have.
Oh yeah.
Right. So that becomes a problem too with hiring. But yeah, hiring people, managing people, all of that, like, it's much more difficult than you think.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that answer. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what specifically, especially, so you say people are messy. And when it comes to gym, or not just gym owners, but just business in general, underestimate, are you speaking more from like a customer standpoint or from like a team standpoint?
Specifically, to that question, I was speaking more to the team.
Okay.
But then it's like, it's pretty easy for you to see, like if you look across any gym community, there's always the things that pop up, like so-and-so got too drunk at the Christmas party, or, you know, like just these messy things happen that you can't control and you can't, you can't even forecast. So and you talk about like running a business, you want things to be clockwork, mechanical, process driven, like you put $1 in, you get $2 out. Like the more people you add, the more that just goes away.
Yeah.
100%. It's hard to manage that.
And how have you specifically managed that with the PushPress team?
Well, I'd say in the beginning, we just made all the mistakes, right? Personal bias, like the way we hired, we didn't have a great interviewing process. We didn't build, like a lot of things, we made a lot of mistakes, right?
Right.
So I think ultimately, you either learn by making mistakes or you pay someone to learn, and we just didn't think of things in that way. And we made a lot of mistakes, I think. Now we have and we are constantly thinking about and refining like our hiring process. Why do we hire? Who do we hire? What are the criteria for hiring? Before it'd be like, I'm trying to find the best person to do job A. And what I realized is like, no, I need someone to buy into the mission. I need someone who has good character. I need someone who's trustworthy. I need someone, who aligns with cultural tenet A, B, and C. Like it's more like you're hiring on human potential and the ability to do the job, not like the greatest person to do the job.
Okay.
Is that what I'm saying?
So would you say that you hire more based on like character traits first and then technical skills, or is technical skills like pretty much hand in hand?
Technical skills for whatever job you have would be the prerequisite to even talk to somebody.
Right.
So if you're like, hey, I'm Matt and I want to apply to be the SEO expert, but I don't know what SEO stands for, right? Like, can't do it. But so that would be the prerequisite. And then from there, it's just like culturally, so then there would probably be mission, right? Does this person grab it? Because I believe in hiring missionaries over mercenaries. So it's like, if you don't believe that the world needs fitness and that the small business fitness operators are doing magic on earth, like, then you probably shouldn't work here. You should go do something you align with, right? And then it's going to be like cultural tenets and core values, like, because if somebody comes in the job, like I did a TikTok or a reel on this, it's like the absolute worst employee in a company is someone who's really, really fucking good at what they do, all-star, that is culturally toxic. Right? Because they become hard to fire because they do so good, but nobody around them wants to work with them.
Interesting.
Right? So it creates really bad problems in the company on a human perspective. So you got to go for that. Like, we're hiring on these are our cultural tenets, these are the things we expect, and we can't be negotiable on it no matter how damn good you are at this thing, because it's better to get someone who's like 80% as good and 100% culturally aligned,
right? Because
then they will be positively affecting the people they work with.
Interesting. Have you ever had to deal with an employee that was like that, who was like technically extremely gifted and contributive, but was toxic to the team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it happens.
Man.
You learn real quick though when you start to realize
quick,
oh yeah, damn, like because you'll make excuses for that person for a while.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, like dude, they keep hitting their numbers. What am I supposed to do? You know, like they're doing their thing, they're beating everyone. You know, like whatever. And then you start to realize like when that person goes away for like a 2 weeks vacation or something, everyone else starts getting better. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what's happened? Like,
oh man.
So these people's numbers weren't really bad, but like when this person left, they did better. Like that doesn't make. And then you're like, oh shit, they just yeah.
Oh, I gotta do something about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Very cool. Let's kind of change gears here. I remember a while back, you and I were kind of messaging, I think over Instagram or Facebook, and I remember I mentioned something. I sent you a message where I think we were talking about like media stuff, and I remember saying something along the lines like, you know, I'm not big enough to, you know, make that big of an impact. And then you immediately called me out. You messaged me back something along the lines of like, you know, stop telling yourself stories like that aren't true. And that was a great wake up call for me, because that one little message, and I was like, yeah, you know what, Dan's actually right. Like I really need to get out of these self-defeating stories that I tell myself that really have no proof. And I think we all kind of struggle with this from time to time. And was there ever a time that you kind of dealt with that yourself?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day, man.
Yeah,
every day. I'm not that far removed from like where, like I owned a gym not that long ago. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
And so probably like when we raised our Series A from a real venture capital firm, and now I'm sitting with people who know Jeff Bezos, and I'm sitting with people, you know what I mean? Who went public on the stock market. And like we're, you know, like I'm sitting with these people because like they bring all the CEOs together, and
right.
Like, or I'm sitting with people who are like managing Harvard's endowment of $18 billion. You know, it's like I'm just sitting with people, and I'm like, oh, like I don't belong here. You know, but the biggest thing I just learned is like, yeah, I mean, you might not belong there or whatever, but if you believe you can get there, it's just stepping stones, right? Like, I think a lot of us, like the whole imposter syndrome thing is like, you think of the game as like, we'll use a football analogy. Like it's, you know, 1st and 10 from the 25, and it's like, you've got to throw a touchdown. Like, that's how you think of the game. Like
right.
it's like long bomb or nothing. Like I've got to get there. And the reality is like, you just need 3 yards of play. You just need 3 yards of play consistently, and you'll get there. Right. And same thing for any career trajectory. It doesn't matter if you're trying to run a business or if you're trying to become like a director at your company or whatever. It's just like, you've got to set your goals so crazily high. Have you ever parachuted?
I have not.
Okay. I was going to ask you, but you're not on camera. Okay. So when you parachute, this is the crazy thing. Like, I don't like heights. Mm-hmm. If I stand like, have you ever gone cliff jumping?
I have not.
Okay, man, I can't.
Man, I just work out, man.
Have you ever like stood on the top of a fence or just something where it's like, you know,
Yes.
it's not that high?
Yeah.
Okay, so cliff jumping is a good analogy because like you're like 15 feet up, but you know, and then where your eyes are is like another 6 feet up, so it looks like 21 feet. But the 20, you don't ever look at 21 feet, so you're like, that is high. Mm-hmm. But then when you're watching someone do it, you're like, that's not even that high. Like, what are they scared about? You know what I mean? It's like depending on what the perspective is.
Yeah.
When you parachute, you're so fucking high. It's like there's just colored squares on the ground. Like nothing makes sense because you're so high, right? So when your legs are dangling out the plane, and like you're looking at the earth, and it's just like patches of, because it's always in like some countryside. It's not like, you know, over city. So it's like patches of green and patches of blue for, you know, just patches of colors, and nothing makes sense. So you're just like, okay. And you jump out and you're falling for so long, like nothing makes sense. It's not like you're hitting anything. You're just like floating. It feels like you're floating. Anyways, I think imposter syndrome is kind of like that. Like you've got to aim so high, it doesn't even make sense. Like for me right now, it's like, I'm gonna take PushPress public. I'm gonna ring the bell one day on the stock exchange. Mm-hmm. That doesn't even make sense. Like I don't even know. Like none of that. I can't even daydream and be like, okay, I'm on the plane. I'm gonna go to New York Stock Exchange. Like none of that even makes sense. That's just where my goal is. Mm-hmm. So that way, it's like I can't get afraid of it, right? If my goal was only like, hey, I need to get to pick a number of 5,000 clients or whatever, it's like that's so close. It makes sense, and it becomes a little bit more like, oh shit, can I do that?
Yeah,
it gets a little scary. So, and then the obvious the obvious thing to this is like, if you pick a small goal and you miss, you don't really go that far.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, hey, my goal is to go public, and I miss, I might have built a $1 billion company still.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Or an $800 million company or something, or I might have been able to change the lives of, you know, 5 million human beings on the planet, you know, going into the gyms that we service. Like there's a big thing that can happen by missing still, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's what I've done. I've just changed my perspective on what big is. And I just realized like, it's just a game of inches, you know?
Just one step forward at a time.
Yeah.
Just the boring work over and over again until you get there.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the reality of this is like 90-something% of the work is the stuff no one sees, that no one can relate to. It's just the boring stuff. You do the boring stuff over and over and over again, better and better and better. It doesn't even have to be perfect to begin with, but a little better every day. That's it. And the willingness not to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's say someone was, telling themselves stories, or I really do believe the stories we tell ourselves really impact our success. As an entrepreneur, how would you coach someone through something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I guess is to stop having people beat themselves up.
Yeah,
because that's going in the wrong direction.
You think that's a pretty common thing that you see?
Yeah, because we all know ourselves so well that we can call bullshit on ourselves internally all day long.
That's very true.
And the reality is like other people don't. And it's just so funny. Like I just came back from meeting with my investors, and I'm like, we've grown a ton since they've invested in us in 2 years. Like not only just like the company, but more like me as a CEO, as a leader, like the development of the leadership team, like the way we go about business, way more mature now than then.
Right.
So I was like, yo, why did you invest in us? Like we were so bad, like when you invested in us, like, and he's just like, yeah, but we know what you could do. Like we see this over and over again. But, from my perspective, I'm like, dude, we are so bad. No company could be as bad as us. And he's like, no, this is the thing. Like every company's in the same spot. Stop beating yourself up. So any person out there is like, everyone's in the same spot. The only thing that differentiates people, is like how big you think and how willing you are to get up every day and keep moving in that direction.
Yeah. I like that. The will to keep moving forward, regardless of how you feel.
Because 80% of the time, it's going to feel like you didn't make progress. Again, it's like the whole, like, I need to score a touchdown on every first down.
Yeah.
The 3 yards don't feel good, but you do that for like a year or two. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, we've made some progress here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That compounding interest. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great way to put it. Is there anything else you want to say before we start wrapping things up? Anything else that we left untouched?
Let's see. I don't know, man. I personally admire you for the shit that you do. Like you're definitely, I feel like you think big. You think, and maybe you beat yourself up over it, but I don't see many people consistently, like this is a pro setup. You didn't have to do all this, you know what I mean? And you're putting yourself out there and putting work in. So like you are like an avatar for the type of person that I need to unlock. We need to make Red Wolf bigger and bigger.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Yep.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Dan. I really appreciate it. I know that you have a really busy schedule, and it really means a lot to me that you took time out of your day to chat with us today. Really appreciate your generosity. Thank you so much for listening. Please give Dan a follow at Daniel San. I will put his link to all his social media in the show notes, so give him a follow. And if this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow me on social media at Red Wolf Matt, and you can also check out my gym at Red Wolf CrossFit and DM your questions or content suggestions there. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, good luck, have fun. Nailed it.